What are the front lines between freedom and oppression? Are they in Eastern Europe or in the Taiwan Strait? Are they on the streets of Hong Kong, Myanmar and Belarus, or in our own streets? Are they challenges far away or in our homes and our technology? The answer to all of these questions is yes. We all stand on the front line of freedom because the battle between freedom and autocracy is incumbent on us all. COVID saw us temporarily suspend some freedom to save lives. But now we have a vaccine to defeat COVID. It's time to inoculate ourselves to defeat autocracy and coercion. That is why I invite you to our 4th Copenhagen Democracy Summit on May 10th and 11th. President Biden opened our first summit in 2018, and he will convene a global summit of the world's democracies later this year. We'll discuss the role of the United States and the challenges facing us in the defense of the free world. Join us also as we launch the Copenhagen Charter. It will urge democracies to coalesce and return democratic multilateralism to its ascendancy. We all have a duty to stand for freedom and democracy. Last year we met fully virtually. This year some of us will be back in the Royal Playhouse in Copenhagen, where I stand today. But whether you join us in person or virtually, I'm pleased to welcome you for the 2021 Copenhagen Democracy Summit.
And let us add our welcome. I'm Jeanne Meserve. I'm a member of the Transatlantic Commission on Election Integrity and co-host of the Spy Talk podcast.
Thank you, Jeanne. And I'm Ryan Heath. I host Politico's Global Translations newsletter and podcast. And we're live here in sunny Copenhagen at the Royal Playhouse, returning home to the site of the original Copenhagen Democracy Summits in 2018 and 2019. And after a year of virtual programming, we're back again with a hybrid summit.
We will be taking questions from our live audience. And by the way, all of us here are following Denmark's COVID guidelines. We also want to take questions from those of you joining us virtually. So please submit your questions online. And for all of you, follow us on social media. You can follow us at #CDS2021 and #DefendDemocracy.
And we're now delighted to invite to the stage our summit host, Anders Fogh Rasmussen. Anders, I see you've got that big smile of yours. You're an optimist for democracy, but there's a lot of people out there that see democratic decline at the moment. Tell us what keeps that smile on your face. Why are you still optimistic?
First of all, before answering your question, Jeanne and Ryan, I'm really pleased to be back in the Playhouse with you on stage. And I'm also delighted to see an audience here physically. We really appreciate that. You took time to come here. Welcome, all of you. And many more will follow our summit virtually from all corners of the world. Welcome to you as well. But to your question, yes, I am optimistic. Of course, I'm not naive on the warning signs from outside, external threats from authoritarian states that use disinformation, strategic corruption, economic coercion, to destabilize democracies. We also have internal challenges, self-doubt in many democratic states, backsliding in other states. So I'm not naive. I see those warning signs. But still, I also see a lot of hope. And first of all, I would highlight all the democratic activists we have seen go to the streets to demand freedom, the right to determine their own life. In Myanmar, Belarus, Hong Kong, and elsewhere, Venezuela, elsewhere. That gives hope, I think. I also think it gives hope to see that the free world is now less naive. Maybe we took freedom and democracy for granted. We don't any longer. I think we now realize that we have to work for freedom and democracy each and every day. And that leads me to the final point, why I am optimistic, why I do see hope. Not only do we gather people around our summit, but more importantly, President Biden has pledged to organize and host a summit, a global summit for democracy, later this year. Actually, he was the very first to inaugurate this series of democracy summits here in Copenhagen. Maybe he even got the idea to organize and host a global summit for democracy here in Copenhagen. We have also seen the presidency of the British presidency of the G7 group pursue this idea of gathering more democracies. So I think we have realized we need to work for freedom and democracy. So, in conclusion, I do think the autocrats now are living on borrowed time, because the desire for freedom is the strongest force in the world.
You have launched the Copenhagen Charter for the Alliance of Democracies. Tell us what it is and what you hope this does.
Yeah, the Copenhagen Charter has three important elements. Firstly, the world's democracies should help each other. And we have introduced the idea of an economic Article 5. It's very much inspired by the NATO Security Article 5, which states that we consider an attack on one ally an attack on all. And we have pledged to help each other against such attacks. Actually, we need exactly the same in the economic field. The more because today's threats are not only tanks, but also economic coercion, strategic investments, etc. So, if China or any other dictatorship or autocratic system threatens the economy of a democratic ally, then we should help that ally. For instance, China has sanctioned Australian wine. Then, of course, other democracies should come to the aid of Australia. And furthermore, we should introduce a credit facility to help individual companies that are exposed to consumer boycott or other kinds of sanctions from autocratic regimes. Now, the second element is a technological alliance of democracies. We need such a technological alliance because otherwise we risk that the authoritarian countries will define or determine the international norms and standards for the use of new technology. And obviously, it is important that the use of information and communication technology as well as artificial intelligence, are based on principles upon which we have founded our free societies. That's why we need a technological alliance of democracies to set the global standards and norms for the use of new technology. And the third element in this Copenhagen Charter is a call to stand up for democracy's champions, not only in words, but also in deeds. I think that the democracy activists that risk a lot due to their efforts to promote the values on which we believe, they deserve our support. These are the three elements of this Copenhagen Charter. I'm very pleased that already now it has been signed by the National Democratic Institute in the US and the International Republican Institute in the US. So it's really a bipartisan effort.
On that note, one final question. We've seen all the damage that's been inflicted on US democracy, and President Biden will now be bringing together people for this summit for democracy. How important is it that the US does provide that sort of global leadership? Where is their standing now in the world?
It's crucial. I really appreciate, to quote President Biden, America is back. We need American global leadership. We need determined American global leadership, because history shows that when the Americans retreat, they will leave behind a vacuum, and that vacuum will be filled by the bad guys. And that's exactly why we have seen autocrats and dictators advance during recent years, and that's the reason why we need an American global leadership to create this global alliance of democracies. Of course, there'll be a lot of discussion about the guest list. Who will and who could qualify for being invited to this global summit? But I welcome this competition because no one should be excluded if they fulfill the necessary criteria. And that's not only to organize free and fair elections, but that's also to respect rule of law, protection of minorities, free speech, religious freedom, etc. But if countries fulfill those criteria, they should be more than welcome. I would appreciate that competition. But I think, first and foremost, our contribution from this summit should be to provide inputs for the Biden administration to create ideas as to what could be discussed at the Global Summit for Democracy organized by President Biden later this year. That would send an important signal to all dictators and autocrats in the world.
Thank you, Anders, and we will hear a lot more about all of these subjects in the course of the summit. Thanks.